Yellowstone, Thomas Rainwater. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor, and welcome to my continued analysis of major characters that appear in the television series Yellowstone. As always, keep in mind that as a consequence of the needs of character development, plot arcs, and general entertainment, it's not always the case that representations that you see on screen are representative of what occurs in real life that would fit with the classifications, and therefore that may well mean that there are particular outliers. Keep that in mind. Furthermore, there may be spoilers ahead, so be warned. Finally, it would be appreciated if you would share the links to this video to other forums where you know that people are interested in Yellowstone as a television series. They probably do not access my work already, and it will no doubt be of interest for them to have such analyses provided to them of characters that they enjoy watching on television. My thanks in advance. Thomas Rainwater is chairman of the Confederative Tribes of Broken Rock and leader of the Broken Rock Indian Reservation. He is the owner of the Painted Horse Casino and the Grey Wolf Peak Casino. He carries a strong ambition to take the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch and expand beyond the reservation because he feels the desire to reclaim what his ancestors lost. Thomas was raised off the reservation and thought he was of Mexican descent until he was 18 years old. He never knew his biological mother, potential lack of control. According to his adoption records, he learned he was Native American. He attended and graduated Harvard University. He also interned for the American Petroleum Institute. He then worked at Emerson and later on went to work for Merrill Lynch. As new chairman of the Confederated Tribes of Broken Rock, Thomas Rainwater is out to keep and protect the Broken Rock Reservation land. He has even stated he wants to take back what rightfully belongs to the tribes, meaning he wants to expand the reservation and keep outsiders as far away as possible. Now, might that be viewed as lacking emotional empathy for those affected by those plans? Or could it be said that actually that is a manifestation of his emotional empathy because he regards it as important to expand the reservation and take back land? He's assisted by Mo, his driver. He started a collaboration with Dan Jenkins of Paradise Valley to build a casino and a hotel and annex the ground that it will be built on. Rainwater is a shrewd and intelligent man. He's calm, he's collected, and he's able to see the big picture. He often sees the world in terms of patterns and trends. He's thinking ahead and is always looking for ways to improve his position in Yellowstone. That is demonstrative of ambition, and the fact that he's looking ahead wouldn't necessarily fit with the outlook of an unaware narcissist, but possibly could fit with that of an aware narcissist. He's also somewhat secretive and manipulative, and he isn't above using underhanded tactics to get what he wants. He also has a tendency to talk in metaphors and symbolism, which might be seen as a form of grandiosity, and it can often be confusing for people who don't think as abstractly as he does. Rainwater exhibits a protective oversight and a deep sense of obligation to his people. It shows accountability. In a sense, he is a modern native Indian who understands and respects the traditions of his people, but also recognizes that there is a world that those traditions have to compete with and deal with. He went to Harvard University and grew up in Denver, and therefore has experience of life off-reservation, and amongst people who might otherwise be viewed as the enemy. He represents and demonstrates a dogged resistance to attempts to undermine the reservation and his own position. He repeatedly stands up to John Dutton, For instance, the pair, along with others, are observing some cattle as part of a ritual, and John Dutton remarks, "They're not your cattle," to which Rainwater replies, "Neither are they yours." Dutton then comments that he won't allow Rainwater to make victims of the people who elected Dutton just to appease the people who elected Rainwater, to which Rainwater fires back, "Your people don't know the concept of victim." Might that be seen as a rather high-handed response, or is he simply stating the truth, and that he is not afraid to speak that truth? Throughout the show, Rainwater and Dutton bump up against one another, as well as occasionally allying when they have a common enemy. This is a rather pragmatic approach from Rainwater, and demonstrates that he doesn't necessarily pursue a dogged course of action. He demonstrates how he both cares for his people, but is also unafraid to play dirty in order to protect his and their interests. Rainwater demonstrates a fairness wherein he believes that there ought to be a level playing field. From the very first season, he said he didn't want to use thug brute force to get what he wants, the way that John Dutton operates. Rainwater wants to use the same legal system white men use to take away tribal land to get it back. He exhibited emotional empathy when he sent Mo in to help when Tate Dutton was kidnapped, and he also turned over the individual involved in the assassination attempt on John Dutton. However, that emotional empathy only extends so far, and fell short, for example, when he stole cattle, as he deemed that this was the appropriate action to take. Furthermore, whilst he shows emotional empathy for his people, the external stressor of the injustice that has been meted out to his people causes that emotional empathy to ebb and flow with regard to his interactions with others. For example, when Rainwater is in prison as a consequence of the cattle theft, he has a meeting in the prison with John Dutton, where Rainwater explains that he once worked for Merrill Lynch, and he worked out that it would cost $14 billion to buy the valley. He then goes on to tell Dutton that once Dutton dies, he's going to buy his ranch because his children will not be able to afford the inheritance tax, and that he's going to tear down every fence and eradicate any evidence that Dutton or his family ever existed. This threat and desire to recover the land is born from his affinity to his people and a deep-seated, unshakable belief that those who have done ill against his people must meet with some form of reckoning. He is not interested in being conciliatory. Instead, what he seeks is a form of revenge, and this desire reduces, and in some instances, removes his emotional empathy for others, causing him to behave in a calculated and self-centered manner. Rainwater is a wealthy and intelligent man, but he also has a sense of fairness. This demonstrates that he exhibits both empathic and narcissistic traits. It also demonstrates that he has emotional empathy, although it isn't extensive, and repeatedly shows that he won't be toyed with or messed around. He does not exhibit a pathological need for control, nor does he demonstrate any need for fuel. But he is not afraid of going head-to-head where he deems it necessary, showing a steely resolve. Nevertheless, when he does so, he doesn't behave in a manner that is arbitrary, capricious, or impulsive. He is a good representative of his people and recognizes that in certain instances he is going to have to fight dirty to preserve their interests, but see that that is legitimate with regard to protecting the people whose mandate he has secured. So, what is Chairman Thomas Rainwater? Thomas Rainwater is a normal. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.